Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name's Blades, and this is Explore number 1. What is C++? To answer that, we need to take a step back and look at C. So let's try that. I think that's only fair. C programming language. Let's try it. Here we go. C programming language was one that came about, 1972 to 73. What? In Bell Labs by Dennis Ritchie. Yeah, that sounds about right. And it became useful, very useful, for a big reason. There was not really much else you could program in, except for BASIC, which was a bit rubbishy, and things like Fortran. I mean, competing against stuff like that is not very hard. This is how C is set up here. This is just an example. And how it works is you tell it what to return. That's that bit there. Then you would have the function name, 2 brackets, and you'd have your braces called a scope, and everything in that scope ended, or was any memory used within the scope was then returned to the system at the end of the scope. And that's roughly how it worked. And C, as a language, relied on functions. It was a function-style language. This next bit is going to surprise you. Here we go. Yep, let's get them all on the screen at once. The reserved words for C are 32 reserved words. And that includes things like int, float, short, an unsigned, like an unsigned int. If you've been a viewer on my channel, you know exactly what that is. That's how you define your variables. The rest of it, not very complex. 32 words in a language, not a very big language, but it's so powerful it's untrue. In 1999, it was expanded, and in 2011, it was expanded again. So in total, we've got 32 plus 5, 37, so 44 words in total. And that's it. Yeah, remarkable is the word I would call it. If you are using a program in Windows, you are probably using a program written in C or C++. And that's a biggie, a very big biggie. Because when we look at C++, I can tell you now, it's got 63 keywords in, so it has been expanded, but not by much, really. From the original 44, it's gained 19 more of these. Most of that is things like static cast and stuff like that have been added. Not a lot. Not a lot at all has been added. So if you want to learn the language, it's dead easy. Just learn the 63 keywords and there you go. You've learnt C++ as a language. It's not the keywords or the language that makes it so powerful. It's that you can take libraries that are built in C and C++ and use those libraries to develop better and better programs. And as you design your own functions, you can put your own functions into libraries and develop better programs. So really what happens is you're developing something in C or C++. I call it I call it developing your own language, because that's really what it's like. You're making functions, and in C++ classes as well, which define your program, your programming style, how you're going to do things. That's how it all works. How can I add to that? Functionality is very straightforward and is really covered by this. Let's see if we can get anything up on C++. Just put a couple of pluses in front of that, I guess. Programming, blah blah blah. Wikipedia, here we go. If you look at the Wikipedia for C++, you won't see anything about language. You'll see about the standardizations that it's been through. We're up to what, 2018 now? Yeah, 2017's the accepted level. The language is hash include, your library, and you start it with either int or a variable type for return, or a void if you don't want to return a value. And it's very, very simple. Very, very simple indeed. C++ is simpler than C, funnily enough. Mainly because it's got more libraries and it can use all the C libraries as well. So you have the C++ standard library, which has a few things in it. I'm not even sure how many bits and pieces it has in it, but it's got enough to make it work on a basic level, which is good. That's all you need. And then you can build upon it. I'll show you what I mean by that. Probably in the first example. I think our first example's probably going to be something like that. Okay, it's also, C++ has things like anonymous functions, which may seem a bit weird to you. Like I call them callbacks, where you can call back to a function that isn't actually running at the time. It's got exception handling in C++, which is try and catch. If you've tried Java, then try and catch is in there as well. Standard library doesn't say too much in here. Compatibility, well, that depends. Quite a bit of criticism about C++, funnily enough. C++ semantics are much cleaner than its syntax. Within C++, there is a much smaller and cleaner language struggling to get out, which is quite correct. That's roughly 63 keywords, very simplistic language. But what it builds up and builds into is libraries of complexity. And it's up to you what you pick and choose to work with. There are quite a few libraries that do the same kind of thing. Qt has a massive set of libraries for C++, and I mean an enormous set of libraries covering everything. Again, I like Qt. In fact, I will start with Qt as the base for this series, but I will not be using Qt directly, as it were, for their libraries, just for their setup, QMake. Because QMake's rather nice, it's easy and it's simple. So I'm talking about libraries. Not bad. Not bad, there's quite a few. Yeah, these are all different libraries for C++. Loads and loads and loads of stuff. And they haven't even put in things like ST something or other. Have they put in GLFW or anything like that? Google Test is in there. No, they haven't even got GLFW in here. Let's put it anywhere else. You see Qt software is mentioned, and that is masses of stuff in there. doesn't really mention the ones that I use, which is quite unusual. I would think. I would thought they would be quite common by now. Simple Direct Media Layer, SDL2. Yeah, that's common. That's a common C++ library for OpenGL and stuff like that. It's not mentioned here. Never mind. But yeah, tons and tons of libraries. 20 of them. I don't know what, I mean, that's 26 pages of it. It must be. There are that many, literally. Don't know what that is. C++ standard library. Yeah. Yeah, that looks about right. Yeah, that's about as many as there are. Input, output, yeah. So this just runs through what you've got. IO stream, which is the one that we would normally use. Yeah, header files, here we go. We include those and you get the you get the functionality from within the library, whatever library you use. It's a very easy type of language, which I think is nice. It means we can use anything. Can I think of anything that we are going to be using? Let's take a look, see what I can think of. I don't even know if that's on screen. Just one sec. Yes, it is. Lovely. So end that line. GLFW. I'll use. Glue. I'll use. So we'll put that in. OpenGL. I'll sort of use, but that's tied in with GLFW. I won't be downloading that one specifically. GUI is one that I use. We'll have a look at that. I haven't downloaded it yet, but we'll have a look at it. What's the other one? The other one is to do with loading textures. So there is a textures one as well that I use. I'll have to go and find that one and find out what it's called. I think it's probably just textures. STB, I think it is. Something like that, or STB textures. So, I mean, we will be downloading and using stuff, but only as we need it now. I won't be starting off with it unless I need to. I don't think I do. So in the next episode, we'll be setting up in Windows. To start off with, I will be using... Just get you out of the way. I shall be using the good old faithful, and it's going to be that one. There we go. That's nearly on screen as well. They did quite well with that one. So we can get it on screen a little bit better. This is Visual Studio Code. I do have Visual Studio 2019 available. If anybody wants me to use that instead, then I'm quite happy to do so. I don't really care what I use to explore C++ in, but if I write something in here, I am more likely to be able to use it myself privately, rather than just leave it to the overpriced and over-exaggeration that things like Visual Studio, well, 2019, how much is that going to cost me for a license to publish? Probably an awful lot. Yeah, as you can see, I've been messing around already trying to work out how to get all this lot to work. Not surprising there, so that can go. All of that can get deleted now. So that can be a closed folder. Thank you. And that's what Visual Studio Code looks like when you first enter it. It'll probably say, you've got to update. But what I would advise you to add, if you're using Git, use Git history. Using C++, add the C++ in. And yes, I've been using a bit of Qt, so I did have that in for something or other. Yeah, it's for the style sheets and stuff, QML. I was thinking of doing some QML, but it does the QMake files, and it's the QMake file or the .pro that I want it for. So that's what this one covers, because it's only the .pro file that I'll be using. I don't care, he says. Let's just have a look, see what I have got. We'll just have a look. I'm not sure whether to use a repo or just a workspace. Because as you can see, it's on a workspace at the moment. Just delete that. Do I have a repo open for this? Yeah, I think that's the one. Hard to know. Open. Open the folder. Here we go. D repos. Programming. Select folder. That doesn't look like there is a Git repo there. No source control providers registered. Okay, that's fine. Means I've deleted everything. Excellent. That's fine. So that's what we'll be using to start off with. Just download it from Microsoft. It's a Visual Studio Code is a text editor. It's a glorified text editor that uses JSON scripts to extend it so you can use it for programming, which is very nice, but you can use it for a lot more other things. You can use it for absolutely anything. Let's have a look. Alright. Allows you to change it. Yeah, right. I'm not bothered about that. I might use a repo. Might be a better idea. I'm just trying to think what it's going to be called. No, it's going to be programming. I've got depths here as well. Oh, I've got glue and GLFW here. We'll see about that. I want to show you, well, download them in front of you and show you how I set them up. Which is possibly a unique way of doing it, I don't know. But it's the way you do the includes, putting them in the right directories so you pick them up the same on Linux as you do on Windows. And that's the biggest trick to this part, doing the dependencies. So we'll look into that as well. Don't look too bad, does it? So at this stage we are looking at C++, very simplistic language, but with the libraries that are provided we can do a lot more than any other language. Because C++ is criticised more often than not for including every other language, and it can run alongside any other language because it does have all of those facilities in it, which makes it very, very complicated if you want to work with C++ that way. But then again, you can turn around and say, I don't want any of that. I just want it to be operating system independent, which means it'll run on anything, and which is the way I look at it. and then just pull up libraries when and if I need them. Things like glue and glfw, I only use them when I need to. Makes it a lot easier, a lot simpler to do things. And yeah, I think we'll explore it together. How about that? And in the meantime, all you got to do is take care and have fun.